Good morning and welcome to the big story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Nigeria's insurance sector has been long described as a sleeping giant, underpenetrated, undertrusted, and underperforming. But with the signing of the 2025 Insurance Reform Law, the government says it's waking up that giant with bold moves to overhaul the regulatory framework, increase transparency, and boost public trust. But the question is, will this new law revive the industry or introduce even more uncertainty? Will it benefit consumers, or is it simply more bureaucracy in disguise? Well, joining me this morning is someone who's been a consistent voice in the financial sector and labor advocacy. Joining me this morning is Comrade Olusoji Oluwole. He is the president of the Association of Senior Staff of Banks, Insurance and Financial Institutions, and is here to help us unpack what this reform truly means for the industry and for everyday Nigerians. Comrade, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming to the show this morning. Let me start from the top. In your view, what really is the biggest shift this 2025 reform law actually brings to Nigeria's insurance industry?
What it does, we'll look at it from two parts, from the insurance industry and from the public side of it as well. It's expected to create a stronger insurance industry in Nigeria, an industry that is trusted, an industry that will be able to expand beyond the shores. Because if you look through some excerpts of the law, you will find out that it also allows them to go beyond Nigeria to be able to carry out transactions. Now, on the parts of the public, it creates more confidence for them to be able to invest in the insurance sector and also trust the insurance to cover their own risks for them, as it were.
And what we've seen is that for years, low insurance uptake has been linked to perhaps a lack of trust in insurers and poor claim settlement. In your view, will this new law actually fix these issues or just scratch the surface?
Well, I want to correct something. I do not believe that the bulk of the low penetration has to do with trust. I think it's more of lack of understanding. People do not understand the reason why they have to take insurance. So if you ask the common car owner around, using that as an example, why they have insurance, the response you will probably hear is because I do not want to be arrested or because government says so. That's the reason why they do it. They do not understand the benefits, and that's why when incidents that require claims occur, they do not realize that they can go to their insurance to lay a claim. What they do is to look for funds to be able to do that.
Sort out.
Yes. Now, that does not deny the fact that there is that trust issue. Well, that trust issue, again, is not from the big players, because the big players also understand the need for the insurance. What just matters for the big players is to ensure that wherever they put their risks are places where they are sure to get some kind of cover if those risks crystallize.
And some experts will be worried about how quickly operators are expected to comply with new capital requirements and reporting standards. Could this law actually unintentionally stifle smaller players or create job losses?
Well, it's something that will not be unexpected. Well, we're waiting for the regulator to roll out the plan, just like the CBN did with banks, setting out a 2-year plan. We're waiting to see what's going to happen, because really this movement is really steep. We're moving from 2, 3, and I think 10 billion to as high as 35 billion naira now. I think the lowest is 10 or 15 billion for each one of them, which is quite a lot for the insurance companies, especially the smaller ones that you have spoken about. So depending on what plans the regulator rolls out, we could be seeing some levels of mergers, some levels of acquisitions, and yes, it will affect workers. Stifling the smaller ones, I do not think so. I expect that they will be the ones who will go into the mergers, and it's for the regulator to now determine how those mergers are going to take place. But one interesting thing that I saw was when that announcement that the president had signed that document into law was announced, it had an impact on the stock market. People started showing interest in the insurance industry. So trade went up there, prices started going up. Quite a number of them increased by the maximum allowed 10%. And I assume that that's going to be the trend. Now, what that tells you is that people are already taking position. It simply means that if these insurance companies go to the market, they are probably going to be oversubscribed. So meeting the required capital base may not be a problem for some of them, especially since it's categorized. So you have the life, you have the non-life, and you have the reinsurance side of it.
At the head of ASSBIFI itself, what are your members on the ground? What are they saying right now?
Well, it's right now it's a wait and see, because we cannot make any pronouncement until we hear how it's going to work out. We cannot deny the fact that there are some insurance companies that are actually struggling, and it's born out of the low penetration that we spoke about earlier on. So with what has been announced, we will begin to show interest on how those ones are going to take action, whatever actions they are going to take, and it's from there that we begin to show our interest in knowing whatever exactly is going to happen to our members that are in those organizations.
Do you see more people as being more optimistic, or you're seeing more people looking like they're bracing up for impact?
I'll say a bit of both. Now, the optimism comes out of the fact that a lot of money is coming into the business,
right,
which means that there is opportunity to do bigger business. But that bigger business can only happen if the business comes, right? I was checking a study and found out that I think insurance penetration in Nigeria is less than 2 or 3% in Nigeria, which is very, very poor. I think Nigeria is one of the countries where insurance business is not as thriving as it should be in the financial sector. Now, on the other side of it, of course, there will be fears, especially organizations that may be acquired. You know, going into a merger may give some kind of leverage, but being acquired is where the problem lies, because we're going to be seeing probably duplicity of roles. We're going to find probably closure of some locations and all that stuff, which will have its own impact on our own members. But a lot of them are professionals, and we want to hope and believe that whatever it is, whichever direction it goes, there will be a fair deal for our members who are in these organizations.
Right, and let's talk about policyholders now. How will this reform affect the average Nigerian who has or is considering an insurance policy? Will they actually feel the difference?
Yes, there will be a difference, because one of the things that was in consideration when drawing this law was the time it took to pay claims to beneficiaries.
Right.
So one of the complaints that has been in the industry has been that claims have come and it takes time to pay. In the life side of it, in the life insurance side of it, annuity and all that, you know, there are a lot of claims that they are being delayed and all that. So that is quite understandable. But I think what is most important beyond that is to ensure that you do not just recapitalize that industry. You make sure that that industry works, that industry is able to thrive. And there's an interesting part in that act, and it is making certain classes of insurance compulsory.
Okay, like
so,
which?
One of it has to do with buildings. So it is a law now that a building that is higher than one floor, I think, must be insured. Now, if you go around today, I can bet you that less than 5% of buildings in Nigeria, including government establishments, are insured. So it starts from there. And you know, I was discussing with one of our members, I think it was yesterday, about this thing. And I said, if every building in Nigeria was insured, if every vehicle in Nigeria was insured, let's even just leave it at that. Imagine the amount of business that will come into the sector, itself. Yes. And once that comes in, it simply means that they will be able to meet, because really it's not every policy that will crystallize, because there are things that are expected to be put in place as well. So we are hoping that while they are following the law in the recapitalization, that the regulator and the government would also follow the law in enforcing the compulsory areas where there should be insurance.
Right, but we've spoken about the regulators. Permit me to digress a bit. Let's talk about educating people for insurance, because I think one thing that's lacking in the insurance industry is proper education for the public. You know, people don't really know what insurance covers. They don't really know. There's a bias towards insurance, that insurance is something that, you know, it's spelling doom. Like, oh, why am I insuring? Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm covered by the blood and all of that. So there's even people that do third party don't even know what it covers, that, oh, there's a little bit of, they just do it to be able to, you know, show that, oh, I have this, you know, in case they're called, the regulator, in case they're called. So what is being done to actually educate people about what insurance covers?
Well, a number of insurance companies actually do that, go around educating and all that. But I think right now it's a call for them to double up on the actions that they have taken. And we're in an era now where you have so many areas where you can reach people: social media, print media, electronic media, one-on-one discussions, so many. It's time for people to understand it's time for the industry to begin the education that you have spoken about. Recall earlier on, I said a lot of people do not even understand the reason why they take insurance. So they need to understand and know that if this happens, this is what they are going to get out of it. And probably there may be need to start bringing in people to give testimonials of those things. Because I hear a lot of people say, what is the essence of paying 50,000 every year? And so on and so forth.
And nothing happens.
Yes. And then suddenly something comes, it happens, and you are faced with a bill of 1.5 million naira. And that's when you will realize the value of that 50,000 that you've not been able, that you've been paying over the years. I've had my own personal experiences. I've benefited and I've lost, right? I've benefited from insuring, I've lost from not insuring. So I clearly understand. So I think the industry really needs to go out now. And they have an association, the Nigerian Insurance Association. I think through them, they should be able to come out with a collaborative means of educating people generally. So it takes the burden off individual insurance companies. It becomes an insurance industry form of education. And then the insurance companies will now begin to leverage on that.
We see that there's a big push for digital innovation and regulatory tech reforms, but is the industry actually ready for the transformation, especially when it comes to infrastructure and skills? Are we really ready?
I believe that we are, and I'll give that to us here in Nigeria. We've been able to catch on technologically. And I think we're doing very well when compared with other countries in the world. And I'd say in the world, not even in Africa, in the world. We have the people who are able to build these things, who are able to develop it. And all it requires is a buy-in from the industry itself. And when I say the industry, I'm now referring to the individual institutions. I know that there are some insurance companies today that you can actually buy your policy online without having to step into any location. Twice I've done travel insurance online without having to call anybody. I did it, and within minutes I got my certificate. So I believe this is something that is going to do well. I believe it is something that we will not have any problem in doing. And it will actually have positive impact on the operations of those organizations.
So when this was signed, we did a little bit of a survey here at Business Day, and some people have called this law a foundation for the future. Some people say it's too ambitious, it's too soon. Where do you stand?
I think it's long overdue. If I'm correct, the last time there was a recapitalization in the industry would have been almost 20 years ago. Now, when you're talking of 20 years on the same pedestal, you can't move forward. I recall that there was an attempt to do it. The last attempt, I think, was about 2020, 2021. One of the things that stalled it was that we were just coming out of the COVID lockdown, the pandemic and everything. And, we all know the impact it had on businesses and all that, that it should be delayed. So it's something that has been long coming. I do not see it as overambitious. There's a possibility that there are big players who have already even met that capital base, but I do not think it is overambitious. I think it is it's long overdue. I'm aware that the industry also made a proposal, right, to make the capital requirement a little bit lower.
Okay.
Right. It is expected that these things are supposed to be reviewed over time. One interesting part of that bill is that there are two ways of looking at it. You look at the minimum base, which talk about the 10, 50, 10, 25, and 35 billion, and then the risk-based approach. So it says whichever is higher. So now it determines what volume of business you want to take that they will look at. So probably what will happen is that even if we're in the same line of insurance business, what may be required for you may be different from mine. It's all dependent on the volume of business or the type of business that I actually go into. But I believe sincerely that if the plan is well thought out, if it is well drawn, and they are given enough time, it's something that they will be able to achieve.
But really, in essence, how often should recapitalization be done?
Well, there are a lot of things that need to be put into consideration. So it's not just about the industry. You need to look at the nation itself. One of the things that was put into consideration, for example, was the value of the currency. At the time when it was at 2 billion, what was the value of the naira against the dollar? It was probably less than 100 naira, because we were talking 20 years ago. We're probably talking about 80 or 90 naira. Right. Now convert that today to the same dollar. And that's what happened in the banking industry as well. We moved from 2 billion to 25. Now we're moving to 250 and so on, up to 500 billion. Those are the things that are put into consideration. And then you also look at the growth of the business environment itself, to look at the capacity of what is on ground versus what volume of business they're taking in. Because what's the point in having a 2 billion naira capital base in your business and you're taking on risks that is running into maybe 100 billion? If anything happens, how are you going to be able to cover those losses? Like those are the things that are being put into consideration. So ideally, this is something that probably should be looked into. It could be annually, it could be every 5 years or whatever. And if that is being done, we probably won't be leaping the way we are leaping now. So imagine if between 2007 to date, if there had been a gradual thing that had been going on, we'll probably be looking at more than the 10 billion that we're talking about today, because probably would have achieved that a long time ago. So these are the things that...
All right. And finally, what's your message to policymakers, to regulators, to Nigerians today as we begin to implement this law?
Oh, I'll start from Nigerians. One thing I usually hear is that I've not fed well and you're talking about insurance to me. So, of course, people have their priorities. But the advice I have to them today is that you need to also consider the risk of not having insurance. You have money to feed and your house burns down. What food are you going to eat? Because the food is going to go with the burned house anyway. So we need to take it seriously. We need to understand the benefit of having that insurance. For the industry, they need to gain the confidence of their policyholders. So if there is a claim and it is, if there is a claim and it is due for payment, pay it on due date. And for the regulator, they need to ensure that they keep their eye on the ball. It's very, very important that they do that. You know, I noticed that there was a lot written about corporate governance in that area, and they were, and it's going to turn things around in the industry itself. So it removes so much power from those who own those. You know, there are people, there are some insurance companies that are owned by individuals and they call the shots. So all those things have been taken care of. And where there is good corporate governance, it simply means that the organization will be able to operate very well.
Thank you very much, Comrade Olusoji Oluwole, the president of ASSBIFI, for joining us this morning on The Big Story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's been The Big Story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. Up next is social listening. Do stay with us.